Animals are amazing and, like us, are affected by what they go through. The dog was shaking with fear. What her owner did next will surprise you. She saw the hand coming toward her, but her owner didn't have the kind look she was used to. When the hand lifted, she was terrified. She knew what was coming. Her past rushed back, and she shrank down, tucking her tail between her legs, trying to make herself small, waiting for what would happen next. Biscuit had been happy with her new owner until now. She had started to trust him, even though her past told her not to. But this was the first time he had scared her. Biscuit's life before had been really hard, full of sad moments. Now, she was in the best place she had ever been. Everyone at the shelter loved Biscuit from the moment they met her because she was so gentle. They found her at a puppy mill where the animals were rescued. Even though she was still a puppy, she looked even younger because she was undernourished and sick. She was in bad shape. Biscuit's mom didn't have enough milk for all the puppies, and Biscuit was the one who didn't get enough food. By the time she was saved, she was very weak. The shelter staff discovered she was covered in fleas and mites and was sick with worms. She had a long way to go to get better. Most of the puppies were adopted long before Biscuit. She had to get healthy first, and during that time, the shelter staff fell in love with her. She was shy around people, but slowly, she started to grow and become a happy dog. When it was time for her to find a home, one of the volunteers wanted to adopt her, but she had already been approved for another family. The family that adopted her chose her for protection because of her size, but when they realized she was gentle, they tried to make her aggressive. They tied her up outside and used harsh methods to change her. Neighbors noticed and called animal control, and the shelter stepped in to rescue her. Sadly, Biscuit was traumatized and all the progress she had made was lost. She became even more scared than before. She was terrified of big movements and would duck if anyone moved too quickly or raised their hands. It was heartbreaking to see the wonderful dog they once knew being so frightened. The shelter staff desperately wanted to help her, but any loud noises terrified her. The shelter wasn't an ideal place for her to live in at the time because she was so traumatized. A new vet came to check on the dogs, and one of the volunteers told him about Biscuit and how sad her story was. The vet, Devon, was deeply touched by her story. He didn't have any pets at the time, but after thinking about it for a while, he went to meet Biscuit. Her sad eyes broke his heart. He could see how nervous she was and how all the sounds were traumatizing her. In that moment, he decided that he was going to take her home. He had wanted a dog eventually, and this was the dog he needed to take home. Getting her to trust him wasn't going to be easy, but Devon was patient and determined to win her trust and love. He took her home, but she didn't relax when she got there. This was a dog that had been brought to a home before, and it had only made her situation worse. She didn't trust that things would go her way. Besides, she had never lived inside a house. She had always been tied up outside. So if she went to a corner of the house and sat there, shivering, she just sat, avoiding eye contact with Devon. It brought tears to the man's eyes. He just wanted her to be happy. For weeks, he sat next to her, quietly allowing her to get used to his presence. When she got closer, he would scratch her head. She enjoyed it for a moment, but then she would run off again. She was so frightened. The first time she lay down against him was a massive win. Slowly, she started to trust him. She began leaning against him and cuddling up to him. He gave her snacks to chew on in her dog bed next to the couch, helping her relax enough to lie down there. Biscuit was beginning to realize that life in a house could be pretty great. One day, while Devon was watching a movie, she watched him closely. Then, she got up and placed one paw on the couch. When Devon looked at her, she got down right away. So he pretended not to notice. Slowly, paw by paw, she climbed onto the couch. Devon held his breath, afraid to startle her. It took forever, but eventually, she sat down next to him. She didn't move. She just waited to see if he would chase her off. He was too happy with this little show of confidence to even try. He could barely breathe, afraid she would get down in fear. Devon's couch had a recliner, and it wasn't long before she was lying with her head on his outstretched legs. That became their new routine, and Biscuit loved being a couch dog. Devon loved watching her gain confidence, though she was still nervous around other people. As soon as someone entered the house, she would run and hide under the stairs. Devon had set up a little calm zone for her on the first floor with a dog bed, toys, and even a spare water bowl. It gave her a quiet place to retreat to. She had a bed in his room too, but sometimes the smaller space under the stairs made her feel safer. She would go there and relax while Devon had people over, then come out again as soon as they left. She trusted him, but not many other humans. Devon was glad they were at a point where she showed fewer signs of fear around him. At least she wasn't always scared and ready to flee anymore. But one day, something happened that threatened their budding relationship. One day, Devon lifted his hand and looked angry, and that terrified the poor dog. They were playing in the living room when Devon heard something annoying, a mosquito buzzing all around them. He kept swatting at it, getting irritated. It kept flying around Biscuit, and he was worried it would bite her. He missed it and tried to smack it repeatedly, but that's when he realized his dog was trembling in fear. She lay on the floor, her tail between her legs and her head down. She avoided eye contact, trying to make herself as small as possible. It was terrible to see, and it broke her new owner's heart. Devon hadn't thought about her trauma. He could have kicked himself. She thought he was getting angry at her, and she was terrified. It was horrible. He tried to pet her, but reaching out his hand only scared her more. He had to let her calm down. What he really wanted to do was pick her up and hug her tight, but that wouldn't help. He needed to release her tension. So, going against all his instincts, he got out a frozen lick mat that he had prepared. Licking could help calm her anxiety. He hoped that she would relax while licking. She was scared, but not scared enough to give up her favorite treat. As she licked on the floor, the vet sat next to her, hoping she could see that he wasn't doing anything to harm her. He felt bad about the incident for a long time, but despite the terrible fright, the dog seemed to quickly forget about it. That night, she even got on his bed for the first time. Slowly, she became more relaxed around him and got more excited when she saw him. The first time he looked over and saw her asleep, spread out on the bed with her belly in the air, he cried a little. She trusted him at last. It was a huge milestone when she started learning that not all people were horrible. She became less stressed when meeting others. Devon didn't like leaving her at home, so he started taking her with him to his vet practice. She had a room where she could be on her own and a yard to play in. She didn't have to interact with many people if she didn't want to, but she wouldn't be left home alone all day either. One day, Devon went looking for Biscuit during his lunch break but couldn't find her. After searching, a vet nurse told him she was in the patient's room. There, Biscuit was lying by a sick dog that had just had surgery, keeping him company. While she was nervous around people, Biscuit loved comforting other animals. She became like a nurse at the clinic, bringing comfort to sick dogs. Helping them also seemed to help her find purpose and confidence. Devon later hosted a family party and worried if Biscuit could handle the crowd. He set up a safe space for her, hoping she'd be comfortable. During the party, he noticed his niece sitting on the steps, with Biscuit right beside her, something that rarely happened. Biscuit had come out on her own, seeking comfort from the girl. From that day, love and patience helped Biscuit gain more confidence, and soon she was running around happily with the kids. With time, her true, sweet nature finally came out. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comments section. Thank you.